Hey everyone, Matt here from Watch Mojo, welcoming you to a very special movie hour. That's right, for the next 60 minutes, we're going to be taking a look at some truly amazing motion picture stunts. Now, a bit of a warning, you might want to ready your jaw, because with these stunts, it's about to hit the floor. Here's what I'm talking about.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 20 movie stunts. For this list, we'll be ranking the most insane, complex, or death-defying movie stunts of all time. What's your favorite? Now, on to the very risky top 20. Let's go. Number 20, the whole damn movie, Stunt Rock. It sort of says it right there on the tin, doesn't it? Stunt Rock is a 1978 scene carrier flick of sorts, a compilation of famous stunts performed by an industry professional, Australia's Grant Page. Director Brian Trenchard Smith had already directed a documentary titled The Stuntmen in 1973, and Stunt Rock features some of Page's best and most impressive stunt work. Smith's intention was to expose Grant Page to an international audience, but what Stunt Rock did was present these scenes with the heavy metal backdrop of a band called Sorcery. This combination of over-the-top tunes and over-the-top stunt work resulted in one of the most infamous examples of the cult movie genre known as stuntploitation. Number 19. Firefight, Ong Bak the Thai Warrior. Fire stunts have been attempted and mastered by many stuntmen over the years, but that doesn't make them any less impressive. One particularly memorable scene took place in the formative modern action flick Ong Bak, the Thai Warrior, starring the action movie icon Tony Jaa. Jaa's commitment to delivering jaw-dropping stunts was set on full display here, as he emerges from a gas fire with one devastatingly hot kick to his enemy. The sight of Jaa flying through the air, legs ablaze, and the resulting ignition of the thug's shirt after impact is truly a sight to behold. Number 18. The Cult of All Cars, Mad Max Fury Road. It was a very different kind of cinematic landscape for director George Miller when he finally returned to the Mad Max franchise in 2015. Gone were the days of amazing practical effects, and in their place was an industry that prioritized cost-effective but less immersive CGI. Mad Max Fury Road was a refreshing outlier to this rule, however, thanks to Miller's dedication to go big or go home filmmaking. The cult of cars is on full display here, with horsepower and octane being the rule of the day. Specifically, we can't get enough of the scene where a full-scale battle takes place as participants balance on huge poles over vehicles moving at a ridiculous rate of speed. We can't help but hold our breath every single time. Number 17. Building Slide, Who Am I? Yes, it's true that we could fill multiple lists with rankings of how many industry-defining stunts lay at the nimble feet of one Jackie Chan. And yes, one of them is most definitely the building slide from 1998's Who Am I? There isn't any big disastrous end of the stunt, but rather a holy crap sense of breathlessness as Chan slides down this incredibly steep and incredibly smooth building. The height alone is scary, but add in how Jackie switches from walking vertical to going head first before finally making his landing. It's just completely ridiculous. Number 16. Truck Flip, The Dark Knight. He may not receive that much attention for his efforts, but another director who prides himself on avoiding excessive CGI is Christopher Nolan.
Now there's a Batman.
One outstanding example of this was the Joker's truck flip in 2008's The Dark Knight. Nolan utilized the talents of a stunt driver named Jim Wilkie while also installing a piston underneath an 18-wheeler rigged with explosives. The on-screen results were awesome enough, but the stunt is even more impressive when the nuts and bolts of location and timing are taken into account. If you only get one shot, make sure it looks this good.
Come on, I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Come on.
Number 15, helicopter hang, true lies. Don't believe everything you read. For years, movie trivia about the 1994 action classic True Lies maintained that star Jamie Lee Curtis did this breathtaking free air hang from a helicopter without a stunt double. However, this iconic scene was indeed performed by a double. Stunt industry veteran Donna Keegan. Keegan expressed her frustration over this bit of mythology in a 2020 article for the Chicago Tribune, recalling that it felt like an out-of-body experience. The proof is on the screen, too, as a limo in which Curtis/Keegan drives goes off a bridge, while Keegan grabs another stunt person's hand waiting in the copter. It's truly a sight to behold.
Come on, baby.
180 in, 180 out. Baby driver. Car stunts are a huge aspect of this very dangerous industry, with many impressive jumps, crashes, and chases being captured on screen. One totally unique stunt took place in Edgar Wright's 2017 flick, Baby Driver, a scene partially inspired by the heist and crime flicks of the 1970s. The stunt driving is done largely for real with minimal CGI trickery, with this blink and you'll miss it moment serving up one of the early highlights. The scene is set to the John Spencer Blues explosion track, Bell Bottoms, as Ansel Elgort's baby effortlessly turns the car 180 degrees to avoid a collision, and 180 degrees back on course. It honestly doesn't get much smoother than this. Number 13, motorbike chase, Skyfall. The James Bond franchise has provided a wealth of movie stunt gold over the years, from the classic Sean Connery era on through to modern day. The Daniel Craig Bond films upped the ante considerably in this department, from the parkour fight in Casino Royale to our next entry, the motorbike chase from Skyfall. The scene opens up the movie in typically grandiose Bond fashion, as Craig and co-star Naomi Harris speed through the crowded Turkish streets on a white-knuckle ride. The scene then moves to rooftops, marketplaces, and more before Bond's bike goes flying and 007 barely hangs on for dear life. Number 12, Under the Truck, Raiders of the Lost Ark. In 1939, Yakima Canutt stunned audiences by dropping under a team of horses and the wheels of a stagecoach. Over 4 decades later, Steven Spielberg paid tribute to the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark, only this time with a 10-wheeled truck. Terry Leonard performed this fantastic feat, but only after friend and fellow stuntman Glenn H. Randall Jr. agreed to take the wheel. A small ditch was dug to help Leonard move around, but if he'd made just one wrong move, Indiana Jones would have ended up roadkill. Number 11, Car Chase, The Raid 2. The Raid Redemption is a movie known for its intense martial arts performances, but it also boasts one impeccably photographed car chase as well. This scene is notable not only for its single take, but how the camera moves from outside the car, inside, and out again. There was no CGI involved, but actually a crew member dressed like a car seat to make this shot happen. The scene is expanded further with claustrophobic close-quarter fighting and the sort of stunt riving that makes you practically break into a nervous sweat. It's incredible stuff. Number 10. Pedal to the Metal. Bullets. Speaking of car chases, the modern chase probably wouldn't be where it is today without a number of standard smashing forebears from the 60s and 70s. The car chase from 1971's The French Connection is often cited, but minds were already being blown 3 years prior with this hugely important chase from Bullets. Ford Mustangs and Dodge Chargers burn rubber and reach speeds reportedly topping 100 miles per hour, while star Steve McQueen actually does some real driving, alongside his stunt team of 3 different doubles. The end result is a masterclass of execution, editing, and excitement that simply must be viewed at least once. Number 9. Balcony Fall. Stick. Stick may be the most obscure movie on this list, but it's actually well known in stunt coordinator circles. That's because it featured certified stunt legend Dar Robinson in his early on-screen role as an actor playing the film's antagonist.
Well, well. Look at what the Lord has brought me.
Robinson's death scene is remarkable as it utilizes the stuntman's own invention, a decelerator, to assist in the photography of his terrifying free fall.
Why don't you push real hard? You might hit the water.
Robinson continues to act during his descent, firing his gun as a secret brake slows his descent to an airbag out of frame. Robinson was truly a pro and boasted that he never broke a bone during any of his stunts until an accident on the set of $1 Million Mystery in 1986, when his motorcycle tragically went off a cliff. Number 8. Collapsing Wall. Steamboat Bill Jr. A silent star with vaudeville training, Buster Keaton wowed audiences with jaw-dropping stunts that put modern-day filmmakers to shame. In this iconic scene from Steamboat Bill Jr., a giant wall falls right on top of him, but fortunately, there's a window in just the right spot. It looks simple, but that wall weighed 2 tons. Keaton only had a few inches of clearance on each side, and if he'd missed his mark, the wall would have crushed him like a bug. No wonder most of the crew closed their eyes. At least, we're sure we would have if we were on the set. Number 7. Motorcycle Jump. The Great Escape. We mentioned earlier how Steve McQueen did some of his own driving on the set of Bullet, and this was also true during another of his films, 1963's The Great Escape. McQueen was a skilled, award-winning racer, but producers behind The Great Escape weren't willing to toy with any insurance premiums should McQueen have an accident while shooting the film's iconic motorbike jump sequence. Instead, stuntman Bud Eakins, a friend of McQueen's, performed the jump, although for years fans assumed that the actor did all of his own stunts on the set. Number 6. Raging River. Deliverance. It's common for many film productions to use dummies for stunts that are so dangerous. Even stunt performers won't risk death in the attempt.
You don't beat it. Don't beat this river.
One of these was the intense waterfall scene in 1972's Deliverance, where Burt Reynolds goes over in a canoe.
Now you get to play the game.
Director John Frankenheimer was determined to use a dummy, since there were going to be long shots, enabling the double to be used. Reynolds was adamant about doing the stunt himself, however, insisting that it would look better.
Louis!
Fast forward after the stunt with a battered and bruised Reynolds waking up in a hospital and asking Frankenheimer how it looked. The response? It looked like a dummy falling over a waterfall. Number 5. Window Jump, The Bourne Ultimatum. The Jason Bourne franchise is known for a number of things. Shaky cam fighting choreography is one of them, while the other is a reputation for awesome stunt work. Case in point, this wince-inducing window jump from The Bourne Ultimatum. The handheld camera work creates a disorienting effect that is supposed to immerse the audience into the scene's tension, while sharp edits are balanced with longer takes following Matt Damon's Jason Bourne. The jump from the building into an apartment window kicks it all off, and we feel the physicality and intensity right from the start, and it never lets up. Number 4. Clock Tower Fall, Project A. Jackie Chan was a fan of silent movies, and this pick pays homage to the famous clock tower scene from Safety Last. Only unlike Harold Lloyd, Jackie was actually 3 stories up in the air, and then he let go. Jackie tumbles 50 feet down, tearing through 2 awnings before hitting the ground with his head. Unhappy with the first shot, Jackie performed the stunt 2 more times. He even included 2 different takes in the final film, so we can moan and groan even more. Number 3. Chariot Race, Ben-Hur. The most expensive movie of its day, Ben-Hur is best remembered for its $1 million chariot race, which saw Charlton Heston do most of his own driving. But things almost ended tragically when stuntman Joe Knutt filled in for the film's hero. In this infamous scene, Knutt was going too fast and wasn't properly hooked in. When his chariot bounced in the air, Joe went flying over the front. Fortunately, Knutt was able to drag himself back inside, escaping with just a bloody chin. Number 2. Pole Slide, Police Story. Stunt doubles? Jackie Chan doesn't believe in stunt doubles. Thanks to his do-it-yourself attitude, he's been slashed by a sword, crushed between vehicles, and came very close to meeting his demise in Armor of God. But this crazy stunt from Police Story nearly left him paralyzed. Jackie slides down a 70-foot pole, getting zapped by light bulbs all the way down before crashing through a sheet of glass and landing in a kiosk. The stunt almost snapped his spine and left Jackie with a dislocated pelvis and second-degree burns. Ouch. But, man, looks cool, doesn't it? Number 1. Scaling the Burj Khalifa, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol. Tom Cruise is completely crazy, when it comes to stunts anyway. It doesn't matter if it's the plane stunt from Rogue Nation or the helicopter jump from Fallout, the man is fearless. Part of Ghost Protocol is set outside the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, and this mind-blowing scene finds him dangling over 1,700 feet in the air, with the help of a few cables digitally erased later, of course. Just try not to gasp when he lets go and plummets for 2.5 stories. Eventually, with just 1 rope, Cruise runs down the building, jumps over a camera, and soars on crosswinds 1.5 miles above the ground. Just don't look down, Tom.
Okay, no surprise that we saw Tom Cruise make that list. Let's face it, the actor is just as revered for his stunt work as he is his acting at this point in his career. But what are Tom Cruise's most intense big screen stunts? Well, let's find out.
Through readiness and discipline, we are masters of our fate.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 most intense Tom Cruise stunts.
Oh, you gonna swing? No, wait. You could bounce right off the roof.
For this list, we're looking at the craziest, most dangerous, and most outlandish stunts performed by Tom Cruise. Which of these stunts did you find the most entertaining? Number 20, water tank explosion, Mission Impossible. Sure, the stunts of Mission Impossible may seem positively rudimentary compared to what came later, but they're still impressive. In one of the movie's best action set pieces, numerous water tanks explode inside a restaurant, forcing Ethan to evade a giant surge of water. This was actually Cruise's idea because he wanted the film to contain a kick-ass action scene that would elevate heart rates. Nothing has changed. The stunt was originally performed with a stuntman, but director Brian De Palma was unhappy with how it looked. He then asked Cruise to do it himself, despite the dangers of exploding glass and 16 tons of surging water. Knowing Cruise, we're sure he happily consented.
You're worried about me.
Number 19, the battle scenes, Edge of Tomorrow. Not even bulky battle suits can stop Tom Cruise from doing his own stunts. Both Cruise and Emily Blunt donned the battle suits for real, each of which weighed over 80 pounds and could require up to half an hour to crawl into.
All right, man, let's get this show on the road. I gotta suit up.
What's that noise?
The suits were specifically designed to show the actors' faces, and therefore lend a degree of authenticity to the movie's action sequences. If it looks like Cruise is being tossed and thrown around inside an 80-plus pound exoskeleton, that's because he was. We're sure every possible precaution went into its safety, but count us out. Those suits look like they could squash a neck in a second. Number 18, cable suspension, Mission Impossible. Even today, the defining image of the Mission Impossible franchise is a black-clad Tom Cruise suspended an inch above a shiny white floor. Not only is the color contrast visually pleasing, but the image just exudes suspense and spy movie thrills. It's evident that this is actually Tom Cruise being suspended. And while it's not one of the more dangerous things he's done, it's easily one of the most iconic.
And you really think we can do this?
We're going to do it.
Cruise had a hard time pulling off the stunt because he couldn't balance his body with the cable and his face kept slamming into the floor. To remedy the problem, Cruise put British pound coins into his shoes to counterbalance his own body weight.
I know what you're thinking, Krieger. You're thinking back in the computer room, I was up here, he was down there.
Number 17, abandoning the cockpit, American Made. Only Tom Cruise can talk producers into letting him fly a plane.
You know the routes. You can get in and out Estados Unidos with your fancy plane.
In any other movie, this would be seen as a monumental safety risk that could result in the star's death. But Cruise has a certain power in Hollywood, so he was actually allowed to fly a light aircraft for real. But it gets even crazier. In one scene, Cruise's character Barry Seal abandons the cockpit to dump drugs out of his plane. According to director Doug Liman, Cruise actually did this too. Liman was flying alongside Cruise when he performed the stunt, and by going to the back of the plane, he left it completely unmanned. As Liman told Yahoo, Cruise went beyond a, quote, already outrageous stunt. That pretty much sums him up.
Señores, salud, Barry. Cheers. Cheers.
Number 16, thrown into a car, Mission Impossible 3. The modern Mission Impossible bombast really began with 3. This is when the series ramped up the action set pieces, and this is when Cruise really started to go crazy with the stunts.
And if you made it to the rooftop, took out the guards and got the rabbit's foot, you can't just walk out of the lobby. What's your exit?
In the movie's signature scene, Ethan is ambushed on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge tunnel. Shortly after running out of the truck, a missile slams into the vehicle, and the shockwave sends Ethan careening into a nearby car. This stunt was actually performed by Cruise, with a wire yanking the running actor into the parked car. The explosion caused by the missile and shattering windows were added in post, but the stunt was very real.
You ordered the Vatican operation without proper approvals. That mission resulted in a catastrophic attack, and then you fled the scene.
Number 15, flying in a military jet, Top Gun Maverick. Tom Cruise is just living it up. The man has lived 10 lifetimes and has crossed off countless bucket list items along the way.
We worked with the Navy and the Top Gun school to formulate how to shoot it practically. Because if we're going to do it, we're going to fly in the F-18s.
To make the flying scenes in this Top Gun sequel as authentic as possible, Tom Cruise and his co-stars actually flew inside fighter jets. Various IMAX cameras were placed inside the speeding aircraft, capturing both the dizzying sights and the actors' genuine struggles.
It is aggressive. You can't act that, the distortion in the face.
This required extensive training on the actors' parts because they were hitting up to 8 Gs of force. This is enough to make someone vomit and even pass out, as is evident from the behind-the-scenes promos. This is what separates Tom Cruise movies from everything else.
And I think when Tom hears that something's impossible or it can't be done, that's when he gets to work.
Number 14, cliffside motorcycle chase, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation.
We're not doing a lot of CGI. We don't have other stunt people do this.
And driving fast on these beautiful Atlas mountains on incredible motorbikes.
The Mission Impossible franchise knows how to execute a great chase sequence. And Rogue Nation contains one of the all-time best. Ethan chases Ilsa Faust through a winding mountain road populated by massive drops that could kill a person in seconds. Naturally, it was Cruise himself who hopped on the bike, sped through the winding road, and took incredibly sharp turns while wearing nothing but jeans and a tropical shirt. In fact, the stunt team actually disabled the safety features on all the bikes to make the footage more exciting.
It's got a few kind of rider aids that you can bring in to help you not to crash, and we're going to disable all that obviously for the crash, so it lets us have a bit of fun with it.
And therein lies the magic of Tom Cruise, making something even more dangerous than it already is just to get a cool shot. Number 13, Shanghai Bungee Jump, Mission Impossible 3. Many people pay good money for what Tom Cruise gets paid to do. Such are the bonuses of being a megastar and professional stuntman.
I work for an agency. It's called IMF.
In one of Mission Impossible 3's greatest scenes, Ethan bungee jumps off Shanghai's Bank of China tower before slamming into and sliding down a wall of windows. Cruise performed the initial bungee jump himself, and this is evident simply by watching the movie. In one smooth shot, the camera lingers on Cruise's nervous face before tracking him across and over the side of the building. We're getting vertigo just watching the darn jump, never mind actually doing it. Number 12, car chase, Jack Reacher.
Suspect is headed north on State Route 65 and he's back up on air support.
In the Jack Reacher novels, Reacher is described as being 6'5" and 250 pounds. As such, fans were not exactly thrilled to hear that Tom Cruise, who stands at just 5 feet 7 inches, would play the iconic character in the cinematic adaptation. However, Cruise more than made up for the height disparity by performing all of his own driving stunts in the film's adrenaline-fueled chase sequence. To call this stunt dangerous would be a gross understatement, as it not only required Cruise to pull off a handful of high-speed maneuvers, but also required him to smash into walls and cars while dodging oncoming traffic. If only he did Uber. Number 11, knife near eye, Mission Impossible 2. In this film's climactic fight scene, IMF agent Ethan Hunt finds himself locked in a battle to the death with antagonist Sean Ambrose. After some truly vicious hand-to-hand combat, Ambrose pulls out a knife and leaps at Hunt, who manages to stop it from turning his eyeball into a kebab at literally the last possible second. And while director John Woo wasn't exactly thrilled to hear that Cruise wanted to do the stunt himself, he must have been pleased with the final result, which makes it perfectly clear whose eyeball is on the line. If we are to glean anything from this scene, it's that not all stunts require car chases or explosions to be considered insane.
Go ahead. Use a hunt.
Number 10. Motorcycle Chase, Night and Day. Even though it's one of Tom Cruise's lesser movies, Night and Day still features a sensational action sequence. Roy and June, played by Cruise and Cameron Diaz, race through the running of the bulls on a motorcycle to save Paul Dano's Simon.
Bulls?
While they didn't actually drive through the bulls, the sequence still contains a lot of great stunt riding from Cruise. One stunt a bit later in the sequence was actually Cruise's idea. To shoot at goons behind them, Cruise flips Diaz to the front of the bike and drives with her facing behind him.
Take the guns.
Okay.
Here.
What next?
Let him have it.
The actor is always looking for fun ways to spruce up a scene, and this is a great example of his work ethic. Number 9. Almost Off with His Head, The Last Samurai. To prepare for his role in The Last Samurai, Tom Cruise underwent multiple months of martial arts training, a fact that is not hard to discern while watching the film. However, something that is hard to see is that Cruise was almost decapitated when a mechanical horse malfunctioned. The scene called for Cruise and Japanese actor Hiroyuki Sanada to charge at each other on robo-horses, with Sanada's horse stopping at a specific mark to ensure Cruise's head remained atop his shoulders. Alas, the horse must have blown a fuse, because Sanada, and more importantly his sword, kept going. And when it finally stopped, it was just inches from Cruise's neck. Talk about a close call. Number 8. Hanging on a Wire, Minority Report. Steven Spielberg's sci-fi noir takes place in a futuristic world, one in which the police can stop crimes before they're even committed. Cruise plays John Anderton, a pre-crime officer who goes on the run after being accused of future murder. While being chased by a group of jetpack sporting officers, Cruise's character must make a tough decision: take a leap of faith or be arrested. Obviously, he goes for the former, and to pull it off, Cruise was suspended with the help of an 80-foot rig and dropped at high speed towards another stuntman. With the help of more than a mile's worth of cables, Cruise was dropped, then dragged across a massive soundstage. That must have hurt. Number 7. Hanging and Falling Off a Helicopter, Mission Impossible Fallout. The Mission Impossible movies always have great climaxes, and Fallout contains a magnificent helicopter chase that actually saw Cruise flying the aircraft through the snowy mountains. The chase begins with a pulse-pounding helicopter jacking. To perform the stunt, Cruise ran towards the helicopter, grabbed onto its dangling rope, and was lifted dozens of feet into the air. He proceeded to dangle from the flying helicopter with a safety line that was digitally erased in post. Eventually, Ethan slips from the helicopter's landing skid and free falls dozens of feet onto a net below. Cruise actually performed this free fall numerous times, having missed the net on multiple occasions.
Tom's looking up at me. I'm hanging out the helicopter because I'm doing all the cues and everything, and he's reaching as if he's trying to go up when he slips, and I'm looking directly into his eyes, and then he lets go and he falls down the line.
And to think, Cruise is still doing insane stunts like this in his 50s. Number 6. Rock Climbing, Mission Impossible 2. How do you reintroduce a character like Ethan Hunt to filmgoers after a 4-year absence? By having him free climb a section of Dead Horse Point State Park, of course. Despite the concerns of the studio, Cruise insisted on doing the extremely dangerous stunt himself, and without a safety net. All he had was a harness and a few cables that were digitally removed in post-production. Even so, the stunt was so stressful that director John Woo refused to watch. At one point, Cruise tore a muscle in his shoulder while jumping 15 feet from one section of rock to another. The final result is a scene so thrilling, it gives us goosebumps. Number 5. Plane Sequence, The Mummy.
I'm sorry.
The Mummy may not have hit the mark with critics, but you'd be hard-pressed to argue that this scene, in which a plane dramatically crashes to the earth, is not worth the price of admission. Initially, the scene was supposed to be filmed using wires and a rotating set, until Tom Cruise stepped in. He insisted that it be shot inside the Vomit Comet, a zero-gravity weightlessness simulator that more than lived up to its name during filming.
You can do this! You can do this!
64 takes and a whole lot of puking later, and they had their shot. Acting in these conditions must have been brutal, but as per usual, Tom Cruise managed to pull it off. Number 4. Holding breath for 3 minutes. Underwater. Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. The 5th entry in the MI franchise may as well have just been called Mission Impossible: Tom Cruise Does a Bunch of Insane Stunts. In order to accurately pull off a single long take in which Cruise's character attempts to steal a secure file from an underwater vault, the action star straight up learned how to hold his breath underwater for 3 minutes. As if that weren't already mind-boggling enough, stunt coordinator Wade Eastwood claims that Cruise pushed his own physical limitations even further, learning to hold his breath for 6 whole minutes. You know what? The jury's still out on whether or not Cruise is part fish.
You see what I tell you? Difficult? Absolutely.
Number 3. Halo Jump. Mission Impossible Fallout.
The Halo Jump is a sequence Tom and I have been talking about for a number of years.
This stunt has been in the back of Tom Cruise's mind for years. And now that he's established himself as Hollywood's preeminent actor / stuntman, he was finally able to convince a studio to allow him to try it. A high-altitude low opening, or halo jump, is used by military personnel to sneak into a country undetected, and requires them to jump from a height of 25,000 feet, only opening their parachutes when they reach 2,000 feet. To pull it off, Cruise made over 100 jumps from a C-17 aircraft supplied by the United Arab Emirates. By successfully accomplishing this stunt, Cruise became the first actor to do a halo jump on camera.
We needed the UAE. Had they not stepped in, we would not have been able to accomplish the sequence.
Number 2. Hanging onto a plane during takeoff. Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation.
If something went wrong, I can't get into the airplane until we land.
That's how Tom Cruise illustrated just how hazardous this stunt was during a behind-the-scenes featurette for Rogue Nation. And he's right. This stunt was so insane, so death-defyingly dangerous, that Cruise did it 8 times. That's how long it took them to get the perfect shot.
Open the door!
As he clings to the side of the aircraft, Cruise can only watch as his legs begin to flail about helplessly, overpowered by wind, as the plane ascends to 5,000 feet. If you're wondering how this didn't take the top spot on our list, just wait. We've got something even crazier to show you.
That's the wrong door!
Number 1. Climbing the Burj Khalifa. Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol.
25 minutes to door knock.
Standing 2,722 feet tall, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai is the world's tallest structure. So naturally, Tom Cruise felt the need to run, climb, slide, and rappel down its exterior from hundreds of floors up while filming Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. Being suspended over 1,000 feet in the air would make most people cry for their mamas. But behind-the-scenes footage shows a totally chilled-out Cruise tackling the stunt as if he were part bird. The stunt was deemed so dangerous that Cruise's insurance company forbid him from doing it. So he fired him and hired a new one. He has come a long way since Oprah's couch.
There is no question that the action is amped up with every passing superhero film, and that's saying something because there has been a lot of them. Well, Watch Mojo actually had a chance to talk to one of the stunt coordinators of Marvel's Shang-Chi. Yeah, we got a breakdown of all the action sequences, so check this out.
Did he do his own stunts? Does he know martial arts? And to those people, I only have one thing to say.
Hey guys, my name is Young Lee. I am one of the action designers on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and I'm here to break down some of the action sequences of the film. Brad Allen, who was my mentor for many years and also the second unit director on Shang-Chi as well as the stunt coordinator, he had in mind to make every scene in this film feel distinct from one another. And so he built a really big team of creatives in the stunt team. and of course Destin giving us the vision and sort of leading what was important and approving all the sequences. The bus sequence, everybody had hands in, and I think that's partly why the bus sequence is so well regarded. Part of the difficulty we had with it was discovering what was Shang-Chi's fighting style. We knew we wanted to pay homage to Jackie Chan in the bus sequence, and we also wanted to pay homage to a lot of martial arts greats like Donnie Yen and Jet Li, Bruce Lee, of course.
I actually did take a little bit of martial arts as a youth, so I'm gonna try and grade this fight as we're going.
Designing that scene, the first few passes I felt were too like comedy Jackie vibes. It was fun, but it just didn't feel like right for the character. It wasn't until we got to a place where Shang-Chi was a little more slick and a lot less comedic in his actions, in the choreography, that we found like sort of a sweet spot.
Sorry.
He's supposed to be trained in like every martial art. He's supposed to be proficient in everything. So everything he does should be absolutely effortless. Right off the bat, we have him do the 1-inch punch, which is perfect because his character in the comics was very much inspired by Bruce Lee and the 70s Kung Fu fever. It's also really satisfying to see him punch that guy because he just pushed Katie so hard in the face. Awkwafina took that really hard. That was real, which is pretty insane.
You have the wrong guy. Does he look like he can fight? Come on, bro.
Well, and then we had the Jackie, we hinted a little bit of the Jackie influence with the jacket gag, where he gets grabbed in the back, he turns around, takes off his jacket, and then pushes the guy. Then another guy comes on, he puts the jacket back on, and then does an elbow strike at the same time. That's definitely Jackie vibes, but we wanted to do it in a way that felt like Shang-Chi and not like Jackie and not like Jet Li. You know, even getting the pose, the Shang-Chi pose in the bus took some time for us. And I think we landed on something that was very much inspired by Donnie Yen's flavor. I remember even Simu being a little hesitant to doing the pose, but it wasn't until we were there on set and he did the pose, and then when he saw everyone else's reactions were like, oh my god, that's so good.
Holy shit.
And he had to go to the monitors to see for himself. When he saw it, he's like, yes, let's do that. This is a great sequence to break down about like how action design works. One of the first things in any action sequence that's super important is to have an establishing geography shot. The reason being is we want to give the audience all the information as possible. They need to know the setting, where the characters are relative to space, and where the enemies are relative to the characters. And this was from Destin's request. We start with a big wide looking down the scaffold. We get to see Shang-Chi and Katie, and camera's booming down. We see, oh my god, that's really high. We get that vertigo, and as we boom down, we look up and we see an explosion, and that's where the Ten Rings assassins are coming from. We see that they're different from the guys on the bus. They have new armor. They got new weapons that glow. These hook swords that glow. We don't know what at the time when you're watching the film, you don't know what they do yet, but you just know that they glow and they're special.
I'll buy you some time. Just keep going.
Right off the bat, we have an assassin descend in like super fast speeds with the camera moving at the same speed of the assassin. He uses the hook sword, he flips over, grabs another piece of the bamboo. All that prior to is a fully CG shot. VFX is a big part of building action sequences. On the second grab of the bamboo, that becomes a live action shot, and then the assassin kicks Shang-Chi fades. His quick reaction finally catches up to him. He grabs that electrical hook sword, which electrocutes him. Then it leaves an opening and he gets kicked in the chest, and then he falls. And then we get to this shot where he falls, he hits the edge of a bamboo and then turns and then flips back on the way down. Props to the stunt double, Zeto, for doing that. That's a hard move to do. He did a really good job, and it fell really, really hard. This part's important in the sequence because we want to show our hero is vulnerable. When you show that your hero is vulnerable, it adds stakes to the sequence because we now see that he's not invincible. He can get hurt. But here we have very much a human in a very dire situation, and I think that just leads towards grounding the character and making him feel a lot more real. So later in the sequence, we get to a shot where Kay's dangling on a bamboo. She's holding it and she's yelling at Sean to help her. Sean then grabs an assassin and then puts him in a clinch. The story has to dictate the choreography. So of course, choreography-wise, we're not going to have him striking guys in this moment. We need him in a clinch so that he can take a moment to look at Katie and see her in danger. In that moment, then he tosses him and he's in go mode. He's not in fight mode anymore. He switches into go mode. And then again, that's story dictating choreography. He's got to get from point A to point B. I'm coming! So I felt the one shot of seeing Shang-Chi's journey, and as he's running, camera's looking this way, and also seeing Katie at the same time. I think holding that shot as he's going through this whole journey leaves us on the edge of the seat because we see her dropping more and more as he gets closer and closer. And not cutting away in that moment, I think, is integral to the story and also the suspense. So the shot that we did on the day is actually is pretty complicated. It's a one shot, but it's actually two shots stitched as a one shot because we didn't have enough space with the set to do the full journey. And so that was our limit. That was our limitation. And when you're working on any film, even films as big budget as Shang-Chi, there's always going to be limitations. And I think as filmmakers, that's when you learn how to be a little creative. He starts gunning it because he's got to save Katie. In this shot, as he's passing, camera whips with him. That's a stitch point. And in that one shot, we pick up the shot again. We have two cameramen set up. So we have one cameraman on the side here following Shang-Chi. He runs in with him. That's Peter Chris Martoni. He jumps down. We want to have it so it's like a video game feeling almost, so that you're almost attached to the character. The camera's attached to the character. So he jumps down, camera goes with him. In that moment, Shang-Chi has to leap out of the side of the scaffold to get to the lower part, and that's when Peter hands over the camera to Frank, our second camera operator, who is then, he's on a zip line, tied up, he's hanging on a zip line, being held by the riggers. He waits to grab the camera, so when Shang-Chi rolls out and descends, he grabs the camera and also starts descending on the zip line at the same speed in which Shang-Chi is running. And then in that moment, we trying to keep Frank slightly behind Shang-Chi, but not too far, because we need to be able to see the wide Katie falling. And then we have another Katie double just being held, waiting for him to get close to her, and then we drop her, and then he catches her arm. So that took a little while to figure out.
Gotcha.
The only other project I have coming up is The King's Man, coming out in December. I'm really excited for people to go check that one out, how that whole conflict began.
It's time to pour fuel on the fire.
Oh, I cannot wait for you guys to see it. I really can't. Other than that, I hope everyone can go watch Shang-Chi. That's streaming on Disney Plus right now. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. There's no excuse now.
Go, freak!
Thanks for having me watch Mojo. My name's Young Lee, and hopefully I'll see you around.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the special look into movie stunts. Hope you enjoyed this exhilarating ride as much as I did. Keep watching those films, and I'll see you next time.